Guys, are you here? Can you hear me? So I'm now stepping on a kid's toy. It was Superman. Apologize, Clark. Yeah. Actually, you sit and I'll look at your face.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's a warm light.
It can be white or yellow, but in my test, they said they liked yellow.
I prefer yellow because it makes it look like you've been in a warm country.
All right. We got 7 smart people that found out we were actually here and not where I said I was going to be. So, guys, I want you 7 wonderful people to start chatting something, anything, no pressure. You don't have to ask me a question if you want to just watch. And we'll get going with your questions as soon as we get a few more people in here. Good, 14. Before we get started, I want to know, how is the light on my face and his as well? And more importantly, how is the sound? Because in our first live stream, the lighting was bad, people said. I didn't mind the lighting. I liked it. In the second live stream, there was a buzz from the light. So I placed the light further away, the new light that I bought for my wife. And I'm here with a new friend. So, Mary, thank you. You said very good. What is going on, guys? I tested the live stream. I scheduled it. It worked fine. And now it didn't work again. Both light and sound are good. Thank you, Bruce.
And as you can see, I did actually try and Google the problem. So on my computer, I tried to Google something and I just couldn't find an appropriate answer.
That's all right. Okay, guys, so we are at 16. I'd like to get to 20 before we start talking, and you can send us questions. But I'll just tell a quick little story so we give people some time to get here. One time, because I'm from Florida, I was in the beach. I was swimming, and I was in my 20s. And I thought, there's some things in life I will absolutely never do. And I was swimming, and I didn't want to get eaten by a shark. So I stayed in the shallow end of the sand, and the waves were knocking me around. And then I felt this pain in my private area, and I jumped up, and I looked inside, and there was a crab with claws. And I immediately yanked my bathing suit off. And then I saw from a distance my parents in their lawn chairs snatching their hats and smashing them into their face. And I had done something that I thought I would never, ever do. But the situation changed so much that I did it. And that was to be completely naked in public. Then I jumped back into the water. And I tell you, I could not wash that bathing suit out enough to be sure there was no crab in it. And I tell you this story because I'm now doing something in life that I thought I would never do. And that is to live in Russia. And yet here I am. And we now have 19 people, 17 people. I scared 2 people away with that crab in my swim trunk story. Anyway, welcome to EXPAT American. I am the EXPAT American, here with a British man who is also an expat living in Russia. His name is James. That's all I'll say right now. He may say more if he wishes. But James, anything you'd like to say to kick us off?
Yeah, I suppose. I'm James. I actually moved to Moscow back around about the start of March. Got the ball rolling around about February time. So I have been here for
Thank you, Svetlana, my
nearly
wife.
a year. So the majority of this year, I've actually been here. So overall, I'm really enjoying it. I thought it might be interesting to talk about some comparisons between here and the West today, which I'm sure Joseph and you guys are going to have plenty of questions about. So that's why I'm here. And I hope that I can be informative. And anything you want to ask, within reason, please ask.
Exactly. We will tell you 80% of the truth here and not 100. Because if we tell 100, our channel will disappear. And then we're telling 0% of the truth. Anyway, guys, so you can start sending in questions now. But the title of this video is Russia Like the West. It's a takeoff on my very first video, Is Russia Like America? And I also did another one called Is Russia Like Britain? And in this live stream, I'm American, he's British. So we're just going to do Is Russia Like the West? So it's a pretty wide open topic. We'll share stories. You guys ask questions and help jog our memory. Post a link to this stream on the failed one. Aha, that's a good idea, Sergey. You are a friendly man. Now, how do I do that? Because I'm not a tech person.
Right, click the URL.
Click the URL. Oh, here?
Around here, yeah. Just copy and paste whatever that comes up
So
with.
copy your URL.
Copy URL. Go to the old live stream and then just pop it into the chat.
So when I do this, will my face disappear for the audience?
They'll see you, but
Okay,
you
but
won't
I won't see them. But I don't see them anyway.
Yeah.
So. Okay. They get to be in their pajamas. I have to wear a rubashka. So, guys, I didn't see any questions when I left. And I'm stalling so that I can tell you to write a question while I post the URL in the failed stream. This is live, though. Oh, okay, cool. So that's where we are. So I'm going to... Isn't that weird? It still says upcoming.
Yeah.
What the heck? And there's 11 people waiting.
Oh, goodness, the poor people.
Yes, okay.
We've got Ivanov, who's about to find out. Oh, hang on. Yeah, go on. Yeah, just pop that in.
Go here.
Fantastic.
All right, now I'm going to hang up on them. Those sad people in the wrong stream. And go back to us over here. Very good. All right.
Brilliant.
Cool. So, guys, I will read everything you type. Maybe not in this moment. What I'm looking for is the questions because I don't want to waste any time. If I didn't say it already, welcome to EXPAT American. I said that already. I remember now. Okay, so I'm scanning for questions. You can ask Jame a question. You can ask me. And Mary, of course, has the first one. Where in the UK are you from, James? I am British, she says, and my sons lived in St. Petersburg for 7 years. Just curious.
Oh, well, I tell you what, because I like to make games out of such things, if you can catch my accent out and you can guess at least the region, then I'll tell you. But yeah, I'll give you a rough idea. It's not London. It's not London, okay? But it's not Manchester either, okay? So pull up your maps and try and work that one out.
Okay, we have another question from Ryan Rollinson. What would be the biggest concern for a person coming from the West to Russia? Biggest concern for a person coming from the West to Russia. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I think, is language. The second thing would be making sure you have your finances sorted out. What do you think, James?
I do think that there are some things that you've got to kind of wrap your head around. Not everything's going to be the same as the country that you come from, no matter where you come from in the world. Now, there are many, many similarities to be found. You've got everything that you would need, of course, in Moscow. If you want it, you can find it. However, there are certain things, okay, say, for example, I'm British. What do I love? I love pork pies. I love a good pork pie, and I love a mince pie at Christmas. I can't find them here. Could I make them? Well, probably. However, I can't just walk into a local supermarket and find them. So there are going to be sometimes just some little things like that that you might think, I'm going to miss that thing. Get used to the fact that you might be just eating something new or trying something new. Or, as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. You might find certain cultural differences that you'll need to get your head around as well. So, yeah.
So what's the main food that you miss?
Right, well, this is another clue. However, I believe Mary Cooch. Mary Cooch has caught onto me very quickly.
Is that how you say it, Cooch?
I think it's Cooch. I hope so.
I said couch, but you're
Couch.
right. It's C-O-O-C-H.
I think that's Cooch. I think she's going to hate us both.
Interesting.
She's saying it's Cooch. Yeah, no.
She doesn't hate me. Mary's given me donations.
Fantastic.
Which is a good reminder. If you'd like to give a donation to support the channel, you may do so in this live stream.
Yeah, no, but the clue would be pork scratchings. Now, I know they're bad, they're terrible, but it's I think you call it pork rinds in America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's these very specific things like crackling scratchings that we just love in the West Midlands.
I don't eat those things unless I'm at an event and I feel peer pressure to do so.
I
I would say white grits is what I miss, although you can find them here. They're a little bit different. And the person said that, or Ryan said that he's coming from South Africa. And there's another question that's similar to that, which is how many people are asking us for help to move to Russia, Sveta and I. So it's in the thousands, more than 2,000, I'm pretty sure. And so Ryan from South Africa, if you want a more specific answer, you can email my wife. Her email is in the description of any full video we've done for the last 9 months at least. Not a live stream video, but it's in those two. And she is usually behind about a month. Her time to get back to you from the time you email her might be a month. So let's see here. Scanning for questions.
Yeah, Mary's catching me closer and closer. Okay.
Okay,
I'm just going to tell
ahead.
Mary it's Wolverhampton, and I'm not a West Brom supporter. So Mary, but forgive me. Okay.
Someone said Chelsea or MU.
Ooh, that's a little bit too far south for me. Nah.
And someone guessed earlier Essex.
No, it was Wolverhampton. Wolverhampton, yeah.
Very British accent, someone said. Okay, so I'm scanning for question marks, guys. So Igor in Russia, he's my friend, another YouTuber. And we're hoping to do another collaboration soon, even though we do not live in the same city. But I've done 2 videos with him. I'm sure there's some, even a British cuisine in the culinary capital of Russia, St. Petersburg. Even those Brits not know this culinary. No, he's saying you guys aren't known for your great food, but is there food you can buy at restaurants, I guess?
You know, typically we do have British pubs here, many British pubs, not just Irish ones, by the way, but, you know, English pubs in Moscow, scattered all around. Like you can, I mean, it's not just one, there are loads of them that I still don't know about. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did sell proper English food. So yeah, in fact, I've been thinking about doing a video just on rating the English pubs in Moscow, which sounds crazy, but you walk into these places and you are convinced that you have teleported back to England. You're just in there. If you're not looking out the window, it's almost like they've just lifted up a pub from the ground and they've just transported it and popped it in Moscow. It's amazing. Food-wise, though, not too sure. Not too sure. Sometimes, I don't know, that they'll have a lot of American options, burgers, fries, all that sort of stuff. But in terms of the English stuff, I haven't paid too much attention. Maybe not.
So Mary asked, does Svetlana, my wife, what's your wife's name? Or you don't have to say that if you don't want to.
It's Katya.
Katya, he's married to a Russian woman. Believe it or not, guys, can you imagine a Western man came to Russia and married a Russian woman? That's the only scenario I'm aware of so far. So does Svetlana help other nationalities as well as Americans to move? Yes, she does. It's not just Americans. When I say over 2,000 requests, and that's a rough guess for me, she's helping. Specifically, it says in her administrative title for this project she has that she is in partnership with the government on, it is to help people from NATO member countries. But she's not exclusive to that necessarily. If you are a traditional family values person and you're law-abiding and hardworking and you want to come to Russia, then you should certainly send her an email. Igor in Russia says, thanks, expat. Yeah, the video I did with Igor, what were the names of our videos? I think it was Ex-Soviet Loves Russia was one that you and I did. And I think Foreign Agent in Russia was the other one that you and I did. Billy's here. All right. We need an American sports bar and grill. Do we have an American sports bar and grill?
You know what? I'm pretty sure we do. Yeah. In fact, if you say it, it probably exists in Moscow. Trust me.
Yeah, I agree. Moscow has like everything.
I put that to the test, like to the smallest, minutest of items. Okay, for once one of my batteries burnt out on my old MacBook, and I thought, no, there's no way that I can buy a battery for a 15-inch 2013 model of the MacBook Pro. And guess what? I just went straight onto Ozon, and there it was. Brought it. It was relatively affordable. Within a day, it was with me. If you need it, you can have it in Moscow. It's here.
Okay, so someone's quoting Winston Churchill. Russia is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma, and these are his words from 1939. So you have any thing to say about that? Have you heard that before?
You know what, actually, I think I understand, or maybe I don't, where the logic comes from. It's hard to say, but from what I would take from that, yeah, I can see some truth in it. Because, okay, for instance, in England, okay, there's one thing that you find that people are very open when you get to know them, very open. Whereas here, sometimes it's very hard to kind of get to know people at times or know how they feel. Sometimes people are very straight-faced, and that can give that impression. So, for example, in England, we go on this autopilot social thing where it's like, you're right, yeah, I'm all right, how are you? And it's just autopilot. Here, you'll get a slightly different reaction to that question. It'll either be brutal honesty or like a very straight-faced response. And that's why I think, actually, sometimes I do ask people how they are. And I'm not entirely sure if I've gathered the correct answer from that person. And that can be a problem, actually. Not a problem, just a difference.
So if you're just joining us, because we have over 60 people in the live chat in about 15 minutes, which is fantastic. If you don't know what you've clicked on to, I'm an American living in Moscow. He's a Brit living in Moscow. And someone has and if you're a little bit bored by this, go watch one of our videos because I edit it nice and fast and fun for you. But this is just going to be kind of like having dinner with us, and we're going to answer your questions and talk to you about things. But someone's asking, do you rent your own place in Moscow? I've answered that in other live streams. You can look that up. So I'll let you answer this one, James.
Yeah, well, when I did first come here, actually, with the school that I'm currently working for, they actually just given me like an apartment for free, like an old, is it called a Brezhnikov? I don't want to butcher the name, but it's a very particular kind of Soviet apartment.
Yeah, something like that. I forget.
Yeah. And they literally, and I've never had that in any other country that I've lived in my life, but where you go and work for an employer and they just like, yeah, here's a free apartment, by the way. Don't worry about it. Usually you have to like run on your own 2 feet. Here they were like, here's the salary, here's the apartment, here's the transport card. We've got you back. And that was very unusual for me. Like, just like, here's an apartment, go live there. So that was kind of the situation. But now, of course, me and my wife have moved in together, but we're saving up for our own apartment or maybe even a house. If I do get a car, of course. But if we do move out a bit, land's affordable, building a house is affordable outside of Moscow, of course. And it would be pretty cool to build our own house at some point, with some nice greenery around, but also to have an apartment in Moscow one day. So,
if you had your house, though, it would be out of Moscow. Would you be bored? Has Moscow spoiled you?
There is a part of that because, there are services we have here in Moscow that we don't have in England. Okay. 24/7 pharmacies. If you're sick on a Sunday in England, you can die. Like if the pharmacy's not open. Here, you've got it's open. The whole place is open 24/7. You've also got for example, the fact that Yandex or Ozon's just going to come out to you. It's like, I'm hungry. You just type something in and they're there. They just arrive. And you don't have that, what you had in England, like Amazon, like sticking £5 down and then you're going to get your delivery in like 5 working days and sort of something like that. So I do like the convenience. I feel a bit spoiled from it, to be honest. Because, again, if I want a supermarket at let's say, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning, I've got a supermarket at 1 o'clock in the morning on my doorstep. It's not a problem. Whereas I do know in England, you've got to find something Asda 24/7. And, that can be really far away. So, yeah, I've become a bit spoiled from some of the conveniences here.
Yeah, I wonder if, hey there, I'm watching stream, but I don't see where to send a comment. Okay, so someone said they don't know where to send comments. So Eleana, who's sending me a message on Telegram. Well, if you're watching the live stream on YouTube on a phone, let's say, turn your phone vertically, and you should see the comments underneath, or where you could normally put a comment. I think you swipe to the left or the right, and it'll pop up the live stream window. But anyway, guys, send us a question. The topic today in this live stream is Russia like the West. So I'm from America, a Western country. He's from Britain, a Western country. If you're Russian, you can ask us, how is this different from being in Russia? If you're in the West, you can ask us, how is this different from you guys being in Russia? And hopefully that helped Alana. So send us a question, guys. Billy Ritchie wants a house outside of Moscow with a garden and chickens. I'm just concerned because I lived in small town Florida, and I had a car, and I had a nice house, and I had lots of space, and I could, drive to a restaurant in 10 minutes. And it was fine. But now that I'm here, and Moscow is like New York City style living, and I don't even have a car, and I know now James doesn't even have a car. It's been a great year and a half. Like everything I want all the time, whatever I want. Like he said, there's British pubs here, and just you name it, Moscow's got it. And my wife, my Russian wife, Svetlana, she has dreams of us buying a house outside of Moscow and creating this perfect little paradise in the woods of whatever we like. But I wonder, do I really want to spend all my money and time on that? Because in Moscow, I have everything I could possibly want. So scanning for questions. I don't see any question marks, guys. So I met this guy. He is just a subscriber. So if you're a subscriber and you're a fan of the show, keep sending me comments and messages. And who knows, maybe you will one day be on the show in some way. And James does have experience entertaining people. You want to tell them about your experience, James?
Entertaining people. So hang on.
You're on. Where are you on social media? Do you want to say?
On Instagram. James Lation official. I've just done some weird things in the past, such as let's say car camping. I've got 2 seasons of that on Instagram, where I just thought, you know what? It was around about COVID time, and I just thought, right, okay, I can't get an Airbnb, and legally I can't seem to get to Wales or somewhere, and just rent somewhere without them saying, oh yeah, papers, please. I didn't want any of that. So I was like, what if I just lived in my car during coronavirus? What if I just lived in it and just went driving around Wales? So I did, and I thought I'll make a little series out of that. Might be entertaining. So yeah, go check that out.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny. So Mrs. Texas G asked, Moscow seems to have a New York City feel to it, only a lot safer. What are some other notable differences? Now, I lived in New York, went to NYU there, New York University. And so what I would say is, so the difference is, yes, it is like New York, but a whole lot safer. It's also land-wise, obviously, much bigger than New York, much bigger than New York. I guess it's not as international as New York. There's not as many cultures on top of cultures living on top of each other. So, you have like Asian or Middle Eastern people in Moscow, and you have like the Slavic people in Moscow. So really just kind of 2 major cultures there. But do you want to say anything about how different Moscow might be compared to New York? I don't know if you've been there or if you have an idea of it from movies.
I mean, I can't speak from experience. I've never been to New York. I suppose.
How does it compare to all the New York City movies you've seen?
To all the New York City movies. Okay, well, let's start with the accent and the language, but let's. I mean, I would say it's very hard to judge things on a movie because it's very easy, especially for me, who's only watched America from the movies, really, to kind of see the glitz and glam side of it. So you watch, say, Home Alone 2 and all of those kind of movies, and you think, wow, this big city that's all class and ginormous and beautiful. But at the same time, I mean, I've spoken to I've got a good friend also from Florida who tells me about like living around America and the bad parts of it. And so it's very hard to say. It's very hard to say, really. There's good parts and bad parts, I think, to everywhere. But in Moscow, I can say I feel safe compared to London, for example. In London at the wrong time of night in the wrong place, I do feel like, well, that's a shifty gang over there. I feel like I better move out the way, walk around in order to avoid a robbery.
Mm-hmm.
It's a common feeling. I felt that way more than a handful of times.
Right.
Where I saw a gang with their hoods up and they've got they just look shifty. You know that they're not there because they're getting to a family gathering. The thing is, for me, I think I have not felt that in Moscow wherever I've been. I've always felt safe. And people say a lot of things, but I believe the police presence here is a positive thing because the police are around and you know that they are helpful and they are there to deal with crime. And that's the thing in England these days. I don't feel like they are there to deal with crime, to be honest. I feel like they're there to deal with other things that are not real crimes. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, I agree. Hi and bye. If you could rephrase your question, I don't quite understand. Is it worth having a car if you live just outside of Moscow? And space-wise, have you struggled with that? So if you're just outside Moscow, yeah, it's probably worth having a car. Of course, I did a short on the electro trains. They have like commuter trains. I'm not sure how to say it in Russian. Elektrichskaya. Elektrichka. So if you are outside the metro system, which is hard to do because it's pretty darn big, you would then get off the metro at the end and you get on the Elektrichka, and that would take you outside of Moscow to your neighborhood. So if you live in the right place, you don't even need a car to live outside of Moscow in that regard. But Sveta and I are in what's considered the center, but on the west side. And I say we don't need a car. She still would like to have a car, even where we live. And space-wise, have you struggled with that? Yeah, rephrase that, Ryan. I don't know what you mean exactly. Anything you want to say about having a car versus not having a car, James?
In Moscow, so if you do live, I would say in the first 2 rings, you don't need one at all. There's not a chance that you would need one. And that's because, okay, if you haven't seen the Moscow metro system and how big it is and how grand it is, and not only that, how convenient it is. I mean, the price of it is unreal. So you've got like, in fact, I'll just quickly show them now.
Please.
In Britain, you've got, of course, the Oyster card here. You've got the Troika card. So this is Troika. And, of course, what it is with this card now, you are paying little to nothing compared to, say, London for that card. I think I paid for like 3 months. What was it, like 6,000 to 9,000? It was between 6,000 and 9,000 rubles. So what's that? I mean, that's about 60 quid or something, £60. You don't even think about it when it's 3 months and you pay for it. And that's the thing, then it's unlimited travel on the buses, on the trams, on everything within Moscow. So imagine, I mean, if you were to divide that by 3, I mean, if you're from England or maybe even from America, how much are you paying on public transport? So the thing is, because it's such a negligible cost to pay for the metro here, and not only that, the metro system and the infrastructure's constantly rapidly expanding, it's always a bonus to be on the metro system, to be honest. Not only that, it's not like you're going to ever see a delay on the metro. As soon as one metro train is gone, another one arrives. Just like that. I know it's crazy. But it's the same with the buses. I mean, in where I'm from, Wolverhampton, I mean, I was sometimes waiting for about 30 minutes for a bus in certain areas, trying to get into the centre of Wolverhampton. I don't know why I was, but I had to. Anyway, point being, here you're not going to experience that. It's just buses, buses, buses. They've got more than enough transport for everybody. So unless you're going to live, I don't know, way out of Moscow, say the third ring, you're probably never going to need a car.
Yeah, I agree. And I've had an Oyster card before too. That's the London's version, and it's I love vacationing in London, but it's been a while. And from what I understand, like America, the crime is just getting worse and worse. So it's getting to a point where, do you want to take a risk vacationing there? Especially now that I've seen what Russia has to offer. I can have, similar fun here, and I don't have to always be on the lookout. So someone asked a good question. How do most people, not that the other questions weren't good, mind you, how do most people in the UK and the USA see Russians over the last year and a half? Has their attitude generally become worse? So I guess for people who aren't Russian, that don't live in Russia, has their attitude changed towards Russians, James?
That's a very good question, actually. And I think it's quite mixed. So I think that there has become a lot more of an interest in Russia because you can't avoid it, can you? I mean, it's on the news, it's everywhere. In terms of there being, say, a good attitude or a bad attitude, I think that people, sadly, from just speaking, have formed somewhat of a negative attitude, but I think that's slowly changing for reasons. And I think that eventually, I think it's mainly that people's attentions have just been quickly drawn to something else. And because of that, I think that, again, when people take their attention away, and then move it somewhere else, sometimes that kind of hatred or whatever it was drops. Now, not everybody was like that, of course. I've met people that are like, well, they're people just like us, Christians just like us. What's the problem? I mean, at the same time, though, you do get some people that are just like, they're always going to hate somebody, and the media will just tell them who to hate, and they will hate them because it's their patriotic duty, and it's bad. It's sad, really.
Yeah. Have you seen people get treated badly who are Russians?
Oh, yeah.
In the West, outside of Russia?
Well, I mean, here's an example. So because of course I've been, I've known Russians for a very long time, a lot. And now I remember, because at the time I was living in Tbilisi in Georgia. And the thing is, I do remember seeing photos appearing on Instagram, and that were, for example, people would put very obscene stickers on bus stops saying London, saying like a good Russian is a dead Russian and stuff like that, and very, very obscene language. And I just started to think, it was at that point, I think, that I was like, wow, I can't believe it, because in England, we're always taught, say no to racism. You must say no to racism, never be racist. Racist is so... And then suddenly it's like everybody just hated this race and was told, you can hate this race. And I just thought, how hypocritical and ridiculous is that? And I thought, I want to distance myself as far from that as possible. That kind of 2 minutes of hate that people seem to spew out of their mouths. I think it's ridiculous, to be honest, that people can, you can't hate these people, but yeah, you can hate these people. How about we just not hate each other, and we try to get on and, live side by side, put our differences aside and find common similarities amongst each other. I think that's a better way to live, personally.
Yeah, and I see a lot of American and Western displays and things like you guys probably saw in the GPS video I did about 9 days ago, where Sveta and Christoph and Maxime and I went to a puppet show and back. They had a display of American puppets of Jim Henson. But I know for a fact that in New York, their little Russian neighborhood is no longer a Russian neighborhood. It's been changed to the name of the country that starts with a U. So, the West, from what I understand, is being washed of all things Russian. But Russia's not doing that to Western things over here.
No.
Another thing, for example, in the West, when you're studying science, that thing that has all the different minerals on it, the little squares.
Periodic table.
He said it, the periodic table. But that's not what they call it in Russian. It's named differently, and it's named after the Russian that created it, which makes sense. But in the West, they don't want to give Russia that credit, from what I understand. So in the West, we just call it the periodic table. We don't call it Mendeleev's table. Interesting, huh? Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so I have another request for me to interview Edward Snowden. Guys, like I said before, I don't think he wants a public life. But I'm sure he knows who I am. And if his people want to send me an email, I'll consider it. I'll find out if that would get me in trouble with my platform or not. And if it would not, and he wants to, go for it. But I'm not gonna like chase after the guy. My sense is that he went through a whole heck of a lot, and he's just like publicly, he's had it.
And full privacy too. He went through that.
Yes, exactly. So, did you see the comedy club sketch about the American and British and Indian accents? I did not. Did you?
No. What's that?
I don't know what his excuse is. I'm a 49-year-old man with 5 children. So no, I'm not up on pop culture, but I try to be. But it is amazing, guys, in case you're not like American or British, because we speak the same language, we kind of share the same books and movies and music, and it's very cool. And I remember realizing this when I moved here and I had a Russian wife, or before I even moved here, when I had a Russian wife. It's like I take it for granted that there's another significant country, I would say, because everyone's got an island somewhere where they speak their country's language, right? But a significant country speaking your language on the other side of the world. So there's this feeling of there's another place out there that's like you. But a country like Russia, I don't know that they have that, but that's just my own thoughts. How many years has James been living in Moscow, and does he have his own channel on YouTube, James? Or would you like to say?
It's in the pipeline. I've actually been here. I'm only my first year, so I've barely got any dust on my shoulders just yet. So yeah, I mean, I moved here it was about March time this year. So yeah, I moved here in March, and so I'll be coming up here soon. But I will have something in the pipeline. It is coming. Okay, so you can hold me to that. It definitely is.
You have no choice. So let's see here. So Sergey, you bought a car. It was the first thing you bought. Congratulations. All right. So I think I've gotten behind. I need to speed it up here and get to you guys' questions. So because of the sanctions, I think it's hard to transfer money from the US to Russia or not. Yes, it is, but there are lots of companies and there are ways to transfer your money. One way that some people like to transfer their money is they like to, let's say if you're in America, they like to buy Bitcoin, and then they like to transfer their Bitcoin to a Bitcoin place in Russia, and then they like to sell that Bitcoin to someone in Russia and get rubles. That's one way that people do it. All right, enough about Snowden, okay? Is this the same person? I've got like 4 requests.
Come on.
I've answered that already.
What do you want me to do? Go and run down the road now and get him? I'm like, Snowden!
Okay, what issues would you have bringing your dog? Email my wife. Her email's in the description of every full video. I do not know, but she should know because she's answering lots of unique questions. True or false? Is it hard to become friends with Russians? And usually they are not friendly with strangers, but as soon as they accept you as a friend, they are ready to give you the last shirt. Well, sure. Sounds like you answered your own question. Yeah, I mean, for a Westerner, a Russian is not going to come across as friendly in the beginning. They're not going to seem friendly. Even like, I feel like I'm getting to know a lot of the regular subscribers through comments, and you guys will comment sometimes if you're Russian, and it sounds like you want to punch me in the face. But then I comment with you more, and then I realize through through the comment chain that you don't feel that way about me at all. You're just being very direct and open. And I'm glad that I didn't snap at you. But if I ever have snapped at you in the comments, I apologize. Yeah, people are more friendly in general in the States. Okay. So I'm scanning for the next question. But James, I have a question for you.
Go on.
How do movies play in Britain when the British are the bad guys?
How do movies play in Britain?
I mean, how does that work for you guys? Is it like awkward, or you just don't care?
When the Brits are the bad guys.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, okay. For example, okay. Well, since we got an American and a Brit here, I mean, there are times when a slightly colonial past.
Yes.
All of a sudden we're revolutionaries with red coats and
yes.
and bayonets, and we go around poking the locals.
Yes.
I mean, we're not very nice in those movies, are we? And we always have weird laughs in them. And, it's taxes now.
Yeah. So like Mel Gibson's The Patriot. How did that go over for you guys?
So Mel Gibson's The Patriot.
That's like a red coat movie.
Yeah. I mean, I did like him in. For example, let's take Mel Gibson when he was in Braveheart.
I was gonna say, you guys are the bad guys in that one too.
Yeah. It seems that Mel
Gibson doesn't like the English.
He's going around giving us a bad rep. And at the same time, we end up rooting for Mel Gibson because it's Mel, of course.
Okay, so you just accept it as an action movie.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we've been told a lot, especially in the modern era, that we are bad guys and we must wash ourselves of our colonial past and sins, and we're going to ruin the country. In the meantime, all the time, if you say anything about it, then you're a bad guy because your ancestors were probably colonials. And
well, I think that I could say Americans have that similar feeling in general when it comes to, let's say, racism. If we go see a movie about racism and the message that, of course, it's wrong, Americans, the typical white Americans, are going to just go see that movie and they're going to be like, yeah, that's right, we are terrible, we are bad guys. So a Brit might go see a movie where the British are the bad guys and feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those things. I think in Britain we do kind of laugh at it as well sometimes. Okay, for example, everybody knows that everything in the British Museum's stolen. Like, everybody knows it. So what do we do instead? We make memes about it because it's like, well, it's true. Like, it's all Egyptian stuff, African stuff, and stuff from all around the world. But yeah, you have some people get angry about it, and we're like, actually, that's quite funny. Actually, the only British thing about the British Museum is the queue outside.
That is an interesting topic and debate that I don't have a clear decision on because it happened so long ago, and it is kind of a good showing of things from around the world. But I can see why, if it was from your country, you might be offended and you might want it back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some bad sides to it, and there's some. I mean, at least we've kept it in good condition. I mean, everything in there's been kept in fairly good condition. So, you got to see the bright side of everything, I think.
Do you mostly use public transportation? Yes, we do. So let's see. I'm scanning for question marks, so make sure you're leaving question marks, guys. What are the police like in Moscow versus the Western police? So, I mean, I can say the police are here to help you here. They're no one to be afraid of. Not that I had trouble with the police in the West. I mean, I was living in small town Florida. But what has been your experience, James?
The police actually deal with bad guys here. I know it's amazing. I mean, yeah, if someone does something bad, they'll get arrested for being bad. In England, it's not quite the case anymore. Like, I mean, it's very bureaucratic in England. It's more, I don't know. Say, for example, if you get mugged in England, what's going to happen? The policeman's going to come around. Is he going to come around? Where's the mugger? No, it's like, all right, then we better take a witness report. Any witnesses around? By that time, of course, the robbers got away with your bag, and you're never going to see it again. It's as simple as that.
Mm.
Whereas here, no, if the police see bad, they're going to deal with bad, and bad's going to get locked away. And it's nice to actually see something work for a change, to be honest.
Right. And Ryan's follow-up is that he's in South Africa and he's afraid of the police. And I did feel like when I came here and I saw a lot of police, I did feel a little bit uneasy. And so it took me a moment to realize that there's nothing to be afraid of.
No, if you haven't done anything wrong, which most people haven't, then you've got nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my interactions with the police have been positive here. I mean, there have been times when they're just, I've even had police people that they hear my accent, they're like, "Oh, you're from England? Are you enjoying it here? Welcome to Russia." And they've been nice to me, so I can't complain.
Okay, so are any of you interested in visiting a university in Moscow? I work as a lecturer and a student linguist, would like to deal with a native speaker having approximate. Well, send me an email. Send my wife an email. Sveta and I have been to different universities and have speaking engagements and whatnot. So looking for a question mark, guys. So why are there not much artifacts in the British Museum from Cambodia? Do you have an answer for that one, James?
Well, I just followed up. He's gone for that because the jungle is massive. Yeah, I see what he did there. Well, why? I'm not sure on that one. Why Cambodia? I think it's just wherever we explored a lot of everything, it seems. So, yeah, good question, though. I don't have a good enough answer, I'm afraid. Maybe it is because the jungle is massive. Yeah, could be. I'm not sure with that one.
All right, guys. Aha, just in time. I was about to, start singing a song, but I see another question. How would you feel if your sons were... Guys, come on already. Quit messing around. Give me a real question. I want to say I'm not going to get political here. And if I thought that was a sincere question that you guys can all see, I would answer it. But I feel like it's probably someone who is messing around. But if you are not and you're sincere, feel free to rephrase it in a convincing way. But that does remind me of something I was going to say in this live chat. I got to pull it up on my phone. Can we have the heads of our elders back, please? James, the ones from Australia. James, what does that mean?
Well, okay. Basically, we've had one or two things from Australia, I guess. One or two. And it looks like Lex wants them back. I don't know if that's going to happen, Lex. I mean, I don't know what to say. Don't know what to say there, mate. Write a letter in, I suppose. But I've got to be honest, there's a lot of people that want a lot of things back, and it seems to fall on deaf ears.
Mm-hmm. So the person that was going to ask me something about my sons, that reminded me, there's something I want to share. Someone left a quote, and he left a comment on one of my videos today, because when I started this show, I tried not to be political. And people often say, "Oh my gosh, don't get political." And I'd feel like, "Oh, you're right, I won't get political." But as I've continued to do the show, I've realized that everything is political. It's either political or it's disguised as not political. And here's a quote that kind of reinforced that idea for me. "We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." And it says that was the guy who said that was Eli Wiesel. Hopefully that's not a bad guy, whose quote I just read. But I think that makes sense. And for the guy who was asking about my sons, look at that question and think about it. What am I supposed to say to that? There's an obvious answer to that. But there are certain words that I try not to say on this channel because I don't want to confuse the algorithm and have the algorithm not show this video to more people. So if you want to know really how I feel on that subject, just go watch the Marine video I did recently with the Wild Siberian Dan, like Marine in Moscow, I think is what it's called. And I'm very explicit about how I feel about that. But there's no reason for me to take a chance with the algorithm and start shouting out these words again here. So what is life like for dogs in Moscow? Well, it's the same as life for dogs in New York City. It's probably better to have a dog outside of the city, in my opinion. But, people do have dogs here. And, especially during the snowy months, you can tell there's evidence of them everywhere, if you know what I mean. Okay, your question about RooTube. I investigated RooTube. It is my understanding that RooTube is not technically a success and is not a success even now. I've heard that Zen, spelled D-Z-E-N, I think in English, is where Russians are going to put out YouTube type products in Russian. And I've started a conversation with my wife about her starting something on Zen. And we just got $10.
Whee.
Thank you. Our first donation of the stream. So
is that Lex? Cheers, Lex.
It might be, because I think he's given before. He's a good guy, that Lex. What is required to get a first-time visa to Russia? Money.
It's a good start.
That's it, right?
Yeah, or a job. Just go straight for a job. You will need the money to get over here.
Well, what I meant was you pay for a tourist visa.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's all you would have to have. It's a 3-year visa, but you can only stay here for 6 months at a time.
And it all depends on your circumstances. So, for example, like if you had, I don't know, millions in the bank and you were like one of those nomad capitalist kind of guys, then the chances are you could go down the whole business route. And, the best thing to do is speak to a reputable solicitor on that one, a good immigration lawyer.
Yeah, but and if you come here for a while, but you have to leave every 6 months, you just cross the border into another country for 24 hours, which is what I did once. And I told that scary story on a previous live stream. The first one, I think, is Russia scary. James, you haven't been there so long. Is there anything you find frustrating so far in the interests of balance?
Oh, I can tell you. Yeah, Mary. So
one Brit talking to another. He knew what she meant immediately, and I don't.
Right. Okay. Mary, we queue in England for stuff.
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, you can forget your queues. Okay. Like if you're
to a point. I mean, they queue some
not
here.
all the time, but however, those straight lines we make where it's like we're behind each other. They're a little bit not as straight as we would like in Britain. Like, I mean, let's jump on the metro. Sometimes I'm waiting for the metro in my old orderly queuing fashion. And, I've been waiting in the appropriate place for long enough. I'm first one there. And then as soon as that metro comes, it's just zoom. Everyone just goes right past me. And I understand that I can put up with that. I can live with that. But my British brain, deep in the back, is just going, like this. And it bothers me. That does bother me sometimes. And, I can live with it, though. It doesn't kill me.
Yes, because I want to get in line. I want to queue. I want to be fair. And sometimes in Russia, they just all just crowd around, just jump right over you.
Yeah.
But not all the time. And I have noticed that Russia now has a lot of places that have the thing where you pull a number and then you just go sit down somewhere in the lobby, which is helpful, a lot more helpful. When they don't have that and you're like at a doctor's office sometimes, you'll see people coming in and it's phrases they teach you when you're teaching Russian to come in and you ask in Russian, who's last. And so so everyone's just kind of remembering who they are after. So that's all you need to know. It's a big crowd of people in one room and they're going in one at a time. And you just need to know who you're after. So once your person goes in, then you're next. I wish I remembered how to say it in Russian. So here, this is something British you can read because I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yes.
Oleg. Yes, Lord Elgin.
Lord Elgin.
You can slow up somehow.
Might have been a brute to loot the fiddies, marbles. But what would have happened to them if he hadn't taken the spoils away, seeing their looming war between Greece and the Ottoman Empire? Now, that's a very interesting question because there is an argument to be made that, of course, a lot of the artifacts there, they are the world's artifacts. They're the world's artifacts, and they need to be looked after, and they need to be cherished. For instance, whenever we do have wars break out, as we do, there is a chance that, a lot of artifacts, ancient artifacts, could be destroyed by another ideological sect or whatever. And the thing is, wouldn't it be better to know that, okay, at least some of our things from history are kind of just kept in a safe place away from that, which there is that argument to be made, actually. Yeah, I like, as much as people say we want it back, well, think about all the wars where that stuff in particular places could have been destroyed. May not have been everywhere, you can't generalize, but there have been places where that has happened. And you would have been glad that, you would have wished that maybe some of that stuff was stored in somewhere else, at least safe, so that it didn't get destroyed, So, yeah, it would be nice, but it's a tricky one. There's two sides to it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's a good debate for sure. Someone asked, what can we do to properly understand world history? We can't let Helly Weird teach history. Well, I like that question. I can't say that I have an answer. I'm grateful that you think that I might have an answer to that question. I mean, I think you just have to, we're in a situation where we all have to read a lot, and we have to watch a lot of, or listen to a lot of podcasts, and just be discerning. And for me, I take more trust in people that are leaning towards traditional family values and biblical principles, conservative types. But, that's a very, very good question, Kevin Burke. So, all right. Almost $5 from Svetlana. Svetlana, thank you. Not my wife, Svetlana. Okay. With this 3-year visa, does crossing the Belarus border count to start the 6 months again? Yes, it does. I'm almost certain of it. But it sounds like, New Handlin, you are at a point where you should definitely email my wife and be sure you have all your details correctly. Doesn't cost you anything. She will email you a couple of times with questions if you like. Are there any comedy clubs in Moscow? Are you a stand-up comedian, Mrs. Texas G? Are there any comedy clubs in Moscow?
There are, actually. And in fact, I do have English-speaking comedy clubs. I've never been to one, but I am aware of them. Yeah. There's actually some groups. You know what? I'll probably find them later and pass them on to Joseph. But I am aware of them because I'm aware of people that go to them. So, yeah, they exist. English-speaking ones, too.
Svetlana's in Chicago. Hello, Svetlana. I guess it's probably like morning time over there for you. Okay, let's see. What sports do you go in for in Moscow? So what do you play, and what are the popular sports in Moscow, perhaps, is what they're wondering.
I don't really have time to play much these days. However, if there's one thing that is popular here, it's hockey. Of course, I believe hockey is only popular in certain parts of the United Kingdom. It's not as big as football, for instance. But here it's much, much bigger. So if you want to become a hockey fan, here's a good place to play hockey. I am aware that there are American football teams here too.
There are. Tim Kirby is in one. So I never played American football. And it's my understanding that might not be good for your health. So I'm okay not to fight that battle to lead the charge for American football. But I understand if you are a fan and a player, you don't want to let it go. It's your tradition. And where I'm from in Tallahassee, Florida, the Florida State Seminoles football is like religion. It's a big deal. And I remember going to those games growing up, and just the music and the spectacle. It's just fantastic. The last time I went, oddly enough, was with Josiah, like maybe 10 years ago. And it was really incredible for us to be there and see that. So as far as myself, I don't play sports. I'm 49. I jog and I lift weights. I did play basketball when I was younger, but I wasn't necessarily good at it. I was just tall, so everyone pressured me to do it. Alrighty, so that's a sports question.
So Lex is mentioning those elders' heads again.
Go. Do you want to say something?
I'll just break the news. Lex, they're not coming back. I'm sorry.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
I was talking about the elder heads. He's right.
What does that mean, elder heads? I don't even know what that is. I'm an American. We don't know anything. What are elder heads?
Elder heads.
Is it worth explaining?
You know what? I'll just quickly. Here we are. Let me show you now. 1 second. Elder heads.
Okay, an update on the American Village project.
Hang on.
You may email my wife and see if she can give you an answer. You may try to get a hold of Tim Kirby. Tim Kirby is my friend. Svetlana is my wife. The American Village was a wonderful show. But as far as my technical involvement, it was just a show. I did one show. And since then, everyone thinks it's my project. It is not. I'm not for or against it. Tim's my friend. Svel's my wife. We did a show about it. That's all I know. You have to email her or ask him. That looks scary and creepy. It looks like a dead head.
It certainly is. So that is a mummified Maori head. And apparently this one was handed back to New Zealand after 136 years in French Museum. So
so these are mummified heads in the British Museum, and people from different countries want them to go back.
Well, New Zealand wants them back, that's for certain. There's a lot of people that want stuff back, and but the French were good enough to actually give them back. I mean, we no. Once it goes into the British Museum, it never comes back. It never comes out. It's usually the way.
But New Zealand, those are like your people, right?
Yeah. Well,
so no, they're not.
I thought they were.
So why don't you guys give it back to them?
We should. But we're friends.
Don't capitulate. If you stand for what you believe in. So is basketball really big in Russia? I know a few good teams in Kimki and Seska.
Oh, yes.
Well, I mean, you can play basketball here. Like Christoph has the option of taking lessons. It's just the soccer/football lessons are much closer to where we live. I think it's going to be harder if you're a baseball fan, but you can find baseball teams here to join as well. Yes, Miss Texas G. Yes, football is very important in Texas as well. You're right. So, all right, 50. What is it? 50 what?
That is SEK. Is that Swedish krona?
I want to know what does that mean? How much is that? Because if it's a little bit, I want to go yay. If so, I want to go yeah, man.
Should we find out? Let's do the old SEK to USD.
I'm just kidding. 50 SEK. Thank you so much, C. Tavis. Any little bit helps. Seriously, guys. Because this show gives me maybe $200 a month.
Pretty good, yeah.
All right, cool. It's like $5. Very good. Cool. And so it really does help us because it's a full-time job, and luckily I have other investments that allow me to devote full-time to it. But I don't know if that'll always be the case. So if we start getting donations and things like that enough to keep the show going, then that would be a good thing. So we do really appreciate you guys. And that's one of the main reasons why I do the live streams now. And I'm starting to understand why people like the live streams. It's kind of like you're having dinner with me. So God bless Russia. Greetings from Sweden. I've seen many of your videos, expat. I like them and I hope to see many more. Thanks, C. Tavis. I really appreciate you. So let's see here. Oh, Lex wants to say early settlers took the heads of our ancestors for study. So,
we're still studying them. We just never stopped studying.
Yeah, and seriously, if it's a sore subject, Lex, I do apologize.
Yeah. No offense.
But let's see here.
I'm not paid by the British Museum.
Is there an automotive enthusiast culture in Russia? That's a good question for Pavel. And Pavel was supposed to be sitting in this chair, but he ditched me. No, he was willing to do it, but he had a scheduling conflict, and I told him, "Don't worry about it, man. You've been off the show so long, no one's going to miss you." No, I'm kidding. I told him we'll just do it when he's ready, because I had James in the back of my head, and here he is. And the only reason why I thought Pavel instead of James is because Pavel's done like 10 shows. Is that how many shows he's done? And so I thought people want to see Pavel again. Pavel hasn't been on here since the very beginning of summer, I think. 100 years old, I think was his last episode. And it's my fault he hasn't been on. I've just been so busy. So he is the car guy. So, but do you know, James, is there an automotive enthusiast culture in Russia?
Yes, there certainly is. I mean, you know, you only have to see some of the cars. Like, I mean, you know, like
so they modify them and race them, like Vin Diesel.
You see a lot of I still see a lot of modified Ladas around, like, you know, the old Lada cars. Yeah. And I see like a lot of people do some really cool modifications to those cars. I mean, like the sound that comes from the exhaust pipe, goodness gracious, it seriously is like, I don't know, a 3-liter twin turbo engine, some of them. But yeah, it's really, really cool that people are like, yeah, this is an interesting shaped car. What if we just modded it? I do love that. Yeah. So, and also you can tell by you can hear a lot of the cars that have been modded before you see them, because some people put some huge exhausts on, and you just see that vroom, vroom, going down the road. Yeah, there's certainly a bit of need for speed going on around here, put it that way.
The enthusiast culture that I like better, that I've noticed over here in Russia and Europe in general, that I'm not sure they have in America, is they have these tournaments where guys are putting on literal, authentic medieval gear and fighting each other in competitions like sports style. And I'm determined to do a video at one of those places. I actually got offered by Pavel to go meet him at one. I didn't have time. But it's like a Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. They're really like going at it, and they're doing it authentically. So have you seen one of those yet?
In fact, well, we do have them in England, like battle reenactments. So one area that I lived in.
Is it a reenactment, or is it like competition style where you're getting
No,
to
it's
compete?
more a reenactment.
Okay.
And usually it's the Battle of Tearful or Tetnal now. And yeah, it was when the Vikings, the Danes came over, and you know, it was basically the Saxons and the Mercians versus the Danes, and they do it in the exact same place. And some people get very serious about that competition too. Like, you know, I remember after this reenactment, we all went into the local pub just up the road from there. And yeah, there were people that were still in character, you know, having a beer. So like, you know, one of the Danes who's finished, it's all over. It was all good fun, you know, family friendly stuff. All of a sudden, one of the guys that was supposedly a Saxon was arguing with one of the ones that's a Dane, saying, "Oh, get out of our pub! You're not welcome here." And then I was just like, "All right. I think we can leave that one on the field, can't we? Like, can we move on from this now?" It was just 1,000 years ago. Come on.
That is funny. You know, in America, correct me if I'm wrong, Americans, but our reenactments are the Civil War mostly. That's like the biggest, I think, reenactment in America. I don't know if I've ever seen an American Revolution reenactment, but maybe they have them. You just have to be further up north to see them. And I know there's medieval reenactments over here, but what I was impressed is in recent years I learned, and there's videos on YouTube if you don't know, where they're in authentic gear with authentic weapons, and they are signed up for the competition, and it's just like a sports board, and you beat one guy, you go to the next one, and it's a literal competition.
You know, I've just found a great YouTube
Please,
name.
go ahead.
Unglued.
Don't say it out loud if you want to use it for yourself. Never mind what he says. Shh. Do we speak Russian? James, what do you want to say to that?
Я говорю по-русски, но я не знаю один человек, кто сказать, я говорю хороший. Да, я говорю, я думаю, люди думают, я говорю...
Okay, that's enough of that. You're making me look bad. Apparently he's better than me, guys, and he's only been here for 8 months. The heck?
Yeah. No, it's hard work, and I still speak so terribly. Like, it's embarrassing. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's a shame.
We talked about this at the beginning of the stream, so go back and watch the whole thing regarding James's YouTube channel status. Someone said there are modified cars, and they typed about it. If you want to check the chat, those who are interested. So, what do you do in Russia, James?
So what do I do? So at the moment, like I'm an English teacher, so it was a good way in because right now, there are a lot of English teaching opportunities. In fact, where you can basically get a work visa, where the companies will generally help you get on your feet, and there are plenty of opportunities over here. In fact, if you do want to become an English teacher, by the way, I can probably point you in the right direction. And it's one way into here. Actually, it's a very good way into here because the chances are the company that you work for or the school that you work for will set you up on your feet. And of course, I do have contacts in that field too, who do say on a daily basis, "Hey, we need more native English teachers." So if that's you, get in touch with me, please, through Joseph, and maybe I could throw an opportunity your way, put a few good words in for you, and before you know it, you're down at the embassy in whichever country you're from, and you've got a Russian visa in your passport, and you're on your way over here. And who knows, we'll all be hanging out one day. We will see.
Yeah, they are desperate for English tutors over here. Most English-speaking Westerners, they're teaching English or they're in media. So Lex, it sounds like you said something to the effect that he was just kidding you, messing with you.
No, we're banter. Bit of banter.
How would you describe the English national character? Not British, but specifically English.
The English national character. That is a very good question. In fact, how would I describe it? These days, it's certainly changed a lot. It's strayed far from tradition and what it originally was. I mean, I could probably talk about what it was, and there was always this kind of this idea of grandeur, of empire, of things being great. There always was, and the thing is, it was like, well, there was always this kind of London is the capital of Great Britain, even though it's the capital of England, and there's Cardiff, But point being, I mean, we didn't really take a lot of the world into account around us. So, of course, now you've got independence movements in Wales. You've got, of course, the independence movement in Scotland, and but there's still this kind of, we want to be independent and we want to be away from it all. Now, I know that you've got a lot, I don't know what your views are on the Brexit situation, which was a long time ago, but at the same time, that was just a reflection that we're not the kind of people that like to be told what to do, especially by some bureaucrats on the continent. And it's very hard to kind of put your finger on the English per se, because we are so different from one another. We were never really collective, and we were always very individualistic as people. So, you could go down to London and you could go up to Yorkshire, and you can find that two different people that have completely different mindsets and ideas and understandings of what life is and how they interact with the world around them. So it's very, very hard to say, but I think what is hard to say is kind of easy to say. Very individualistic these days. I mean, in terms of the people themselves, dark humor, dark, sarcastic, but witty humor. I mean, look at Monty Python. That was very, Monty Python, all of that sort of stuff, that kind of humor. Great, good music in general, brilliant music, great artists. I mean, look all through the 80s, 90s, 2000s. No matter where you look, there was great British artists. What it is today, though, it seems to me that the culture's being sold to whoever the highest bidder is, or the country's being sold to whoever the highest bidder is. There's no wanting to keep what was old. I think there is with a lot of people who are kind of conservative, but it seems that even when you vote for, say, a conservative party, the chances are they're not even conservative. They're just, the same of the same. They're Blairites, basically. So you don't really, what we've got today, we want something of our own nation and our own identity, but it seems the more that you want it, the more it'll be washed away. And it seems to me that that's the case with England. This kind of feeling that, okay, we don't have an identity anymore. And when you do, for example, when you do want to celebrate St. George's Day or whatever day, it's called racist. You hang a St. George's flag in the back garden, and you've got the council coming around to tell you to take it down. I mean, it's ridiculous, really, because you can hang any other flag up. I'm not going to mention any, but you can, and you're not going to suffer any repercussions. Whereas you will if you put a St. George's flag up in your back garden. So it's that kind of why is our culture being washed away kind of problem with England, because it's like, well, everyone else can celebrate their culture. Why can't we? Okay, we have had bad moments in history of colonialism and stuff, but we've also had good points too. I mean, not everybody believes in that. A lot of people just want their own lands, want their own traditions, and, mostly want to raise a family in a safe, family-friendly environment, with their own cultures, ways, traditions. And it seems that in England, that's kind of being washed away as if it's like an eternal sin in a way that needs to be rid of. And it's a shame, really. But yeah, it's hard to kind of say. Sorry if I went off a little bit.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad you said it. I want to know what you think. They want to know what you think. And they don't want their time wasted. They want us to get to the point and say what it really is. And I think that, like in America, let's say in Washington, D.C., for years I've voted for one party, and you just get discouraged because it seems like nothing changes. And you start saying, it seems like these guys are all on the same side. It's not really Republican and Democrat. It seems like they're just all the Washington elites, and they're all together on this thing. And that their party teams that we're voting for is just kind of a public display. It's just like a sham. It's like a joke. Not that there aren't good ones in these parties, but in general. So guys, I'm going to end it before we hit 90 minutes. So we've got about 14 minutes left. So if you have a question you certainly want to ask, make it short and do it all caps and give us a bunch of question marks so my eye sees it. And we'll kind of start wrapping up here. So think if you have any questions you haven't asked in regards to comparisons between America, Britain, and Russia. James, I was curious. Well, a couple people asked, how do you know your Russian so well?
How do I know Russian so well? Just keep studying words every day. And of course, I do have a Russian wife. And every time I say something wrong in Russian, she laughs at me and then proceeds to beat me with a stick until I say it properly. And then before you know it, I start saying things instead of ladi kag, I'll start saying kag dila suddenly. So no, she doesn't really beat me with a stick. With a hammer. I'm joking.
You're funny. I'm curious, what do British people in general think of Americans and think of Russians? So it's two questions.
It's very interesting. I think that we do think that we've got more of a connection with Americans because, well, for obvious reasons, of course, we split off 1776 and all that sort of stuff, but we still do have, you've got a lot of people from Britain that go over to America because, can still afford to buy a property. That's a start.
Right.
I mean, but at the same time, we've always seen it. The thing is with Britain, is we were never as freedom wanting as everyone in America. Like, for example, the idea in England of owning a gun is just foreign to us. It's just crazy. It's like, whoa, he has a gun. Goodness gracious, what's he going to do with that? We expect it from a farmer maybe, but we don't expect it just from.
It's funny because it's laughable for an American. Like, of course you'd have a gun. It's fine to have a gun, but I meet a lot of people where it's like they are like emotionally offended that I would think it'd be okay to have a gun. It's just interesting, the cultural differences.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the one thing because, well, with Russians, it's a hard one to say because, again, like we've had a lot of historical interactions, but at the same time, we haven't been as close with Russia as we have with America. So I'd say we have a kind of a close relationship in that regard.
Okay, I see an all caps question. I want to be sure I don't miss it because this guy, Svetlana, this gal, sorry, I said guy. Comments a lot. I just recognize the picture, which looks like sunglasses on a table. What do you think about the royal family, and what are your common thoughts about them?
You know, the thing is, I don't think I'm not going to get conspiratorial at all, but I do think, you know, on the surface, there is a lot to be said that is good about them, such as the fact that it's tradition. Of course, it's Britain's tradition. You know, it is kind of nice for us sometimes to see people running around in funny outfits and doing parades in strange outfits like the beefeaters, and you know, with all the red coats and all the stuff. You know, like, and we do like our traditions, like the coronation and all of that sort of stuff. Personally, I love the fact that we do have tradition that surrounds something, at least, that keeps us connected to that which is ancient. Because the thing is, we've had so much of it washed away in England, so much of our tradition, and it's always called bad when we want to go back to something traditional. I mean, you can't go down a high street in England without saying season's greetings. Just say Merry Christmas. For, you know, just put Merry Christmas up, but they won't. They're too scared to offend anyone. So at least, you know, when you do have a royal family there, it's like, oh, thankfully, we still have something traditional. That's very nice, actually, when, you know, when we can go and watch a coronation and sadly, you know, the Queen's passing and stuff like that. You know, a lot of people have positive and negative emotions, but, you know, at least we have something that connects us to that which is ancient, so to speak. So there's something ancient and something that's sacred about them. And there are certain traditions that are kept by them that we enjoy because, again, whether they've had a positive review or a negative review in history, well, it's good to have something that connects you to that which is old. You know, I mean, that's kind of what I love about it, because if they disappear tomorrow, all of the customs, traditions, and everything is gone with them, and it's just another sacred institution that was just destroyed. You know, which it would be, in my opinion, a tragedy. But there we go.
I like the royal family personally, but I have thought, well, shoot, but if I was British and I was living there, would I not like it? I have no answer. I look at it from a distance and I think that's cool. And they're not just the British royal family, they're everyone's royal family, because that's the only royal family left. Not that it is, but you know, that's what it feels like from coming from the West. But if I was a British citizen, I don't know, maybe I would think that it's out of date. But I do like historical stuff. I do like the past. I do like traditions a lot. I'm really for traditional family values, as you guys know. But if you were to have asked me 20 years ago about saying happy holidays, I would have said, oh, yeah, that's great. Why don't we just say happy holidays? It includes everyone, and we don't have to exclude anybody. But now, if you ask me about that, I feel like I'm going to say Merry Christmas, darn it, because that's what it is. And I don't want you trying to wash away my traditions. It's just interesting how times have changed and things have become political, and my heart has been moved on the subject, you know, because, you know, you think, oh, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But a breaking point comes where it's like, you've pushed me too far, and it is a big deal. It's my culture. It's my life. Yeah. So what do we got here? We got like 7 minutes left. So why did you leave the UK, James?
Why did I leave the UK? Now, in fact, I left before going to Russia, actually. I moved to Tbilisi in Georgia for a while. And you know what it was for me? It was sort of like just being pushed over the edge a little bit too much. So just being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I ended up becoming slightly cynical, if I'm honest, which is sad, which is tragic. You know, it's not nice to become cynical. You want to be positive about your own nation.
With the medical lockdowns, let's say. Is that right?
Yes, with the people that said, no, you can't come out. Yeah, and that was just the turning point for me. Well, it goes even further back, I would say, to Brexit. Now, for those that don't know me, there was a point when I was actually campaigning for Brexit in my own local area for a local seat. Now, of course, the one thing about my area, of course, I was out doing the leaflets and everything like that. And, I actually came second in a local election, which was very good.
Wow, I didn't know this about you, man.
Yeah.
Politician in my house.
But I became second to a transvestite Labour politician. So that meant that they won, but you could run Labour in that area all day long and everyone's always going to vote for that party. But whatever, we can move past that. Then Brexit came and I was like, goodness, that's fantastic, And then suddenly I've watched the way that it's kind of being jeopardized, sabotaged, and how it's a bit like, oh, you can have Brexit, but no, you can't. We're still going to keep all the laws and all that. There's going to be no, all the dictates will really still come from the EU. And, whatever anyone's views are on it, I don't like it. And I think that, we should split back into nations. And because, again, I just personally believe that that's a better way to run the country. Know who the accountable politicians are and basically be able to hold them to account. Whereas these unelected bureaucrats in Brussels who just, pass down regulations, but they never get voted in. I don't like that. So I thought Britain would be better this way. And but the thing is, we voted for it. And at that point, I still thought, well, no matter what's wrong with England, we're still a democracy. We can still vote for things and things can go through. Well, I don't think it will. And I've been watching how it's been sabotaged, jeopardized, and people haven't respected that. And there was that. And that was the point where I was like, hang on, do people really respect things such as this? Or is it only when we vote the way they want us to, that all of a sudden it's respected? So there was that whole issue. Then we had the you're locked inside your house and can't go out issue. When I started Googling countries and finding out, hang on, not everybody in the world's locking down, and I've got nothing to lose, because at the end of the day, at the time I had a 5-year plan of where I wanted to be. That was curtains. Once the being locked inside your house thing came along, that was just curtains. It was finished. So I had no plan. So it was a little bit like, well, I got no plan. I've got a bit of money, just a little bit of money. So I just thought, well, all right then. Well, what can I do? I've got nothing to lose but go to another country and see what life's like there. And then I learned that, hang on, actually, like you don't need to be attached to one place, actually. You don't need to be. And if you feel like you are being treated poorly, or there's somewhere that reflects your views in a better way elsewhere, well, check it out. Just go. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You can leave and go back. And now, there's a follow-on. Perhaps I missed the answer. Why did you move to Russia? So why did I pick Russia? Again, traditional family values. It's still an inherently, I would say, conservative society. And it seems to me that also it's sovereign. It's a sovereign place, and it's going to go in the direction that it wants for its citizens primarily. And I do like that, because, again, where I'm from in England, it feels like, no, we're just going the way of the UN for this Agenda 2030 stuff and all that. It feels like we're just moving in more of a direction for corporations rather than people in England. So here, I do feel like, I don't know, I feel almost like this place is true family values. And you look at some of the policies and you see that actually the more children you have, the more the government are going to push for, like, say, there was something I read today that apparently if you have 3 kids and you're under 35, that you're going to get a reduced interest rate on your mortgage. And whereas in England, it's sort of like, no, we need to go green and cut the population down. We need to stop having babies because we need to make the weather better. And it's just like, what? Make the weather better? Like, I'm sorry. If you believe that, fine. I don't. I think that, no, the best way is to keep our population going. And and also, I'm not going to get into that political side, but I do like that, of course, we live in a country where, they do care about people, family, and, also God as well, because England feels very atheistic these days. And I like to be in an environment that cares about God, to be honest.
Yeah, like I've said, I'm a Christian first before I'm a citizen of any country. So for me, it was easy to come here, and I didn't feel like I was being unfaithful to my people, because I feel like I'm just going where the Christians are, where the religious people are. Anyway, guys, I have to stop in less than a minute. I know there's lots of questions. I'm also thinking of lots of questions. So just go to the comments section when I end this and put your question there, and James will answer it. And maybe we'll do it again sometime with him. But, yeah, because I have lots of questions regarding Britain and America that are coming to my mind, but we just don't have time anymore. Thanks so much. Click like, subscribe, share this video. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate your support, whether it be financial or through just sharing the video. Click the box to see what happens next, and be watching out for this guy.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.